Well, let's stay with the African Union Summit that is concluding today, and joining me now is Ezenwa Olumba, a doctoral researcher at the University of London's Conflict, Violence and Terrorism Research Centre for the Royal Holloway. Mr. Olumba, good evening to you and thank you for your time. The theme of this 37th AU Ordinary Summit is Educate an Africa Fit for the 21st Century. Do you think that that should have been at the top of the agenda of this summit, given the tense situation that's taking place in Eastern DRC right now?
Thank you, Oli, for having me. Like you rightly said, that shouldn't be in the top agenda of the summit. Their priority should have been on security. There should have been a debate on how they can go about restoring peace in the DRC, as well as the issues related to the war in Sudan. So, at the moment, there is an ongoing crisis in Senegal as well, likewise in the Sahel of Africa. So this should have been the priority of the summit rather than what they did within the 2 days.
So if the focus is not on peace and security, because there are many other areas to flag, the Sahel region, for example, multiple coups taking place there, again, are we at a point where the AU's priorities are simply misaligned?
Yes, exactly. You got it right. The AU should have been focused on, restoring peace in these hotspots. Not only that, they should have also they should begin the discussion on how they can have a Pan-African drone protocol, which will help all the African nations to have a kind of a protocol that will guide their airspace. So the focus should have been on security and also restoring peace in those hotspots.
And so if all of these wars are going on and the continental body, including its peace and security arm, are, I think for lack of a better term, are going to pay lip service to this, then what hope is there that stability is going to be restored in these regions? And I want to pay particular attention to the Eastern DRC, because there are strong arguments being made that the M23 rebels, for example, are somewhat being supported by the Rwandan army. Now, that should be, or that appears to be an intractable situation, because it means African Union leaders confronting their counterpart, Paul Kagame. Is that something that they have the appetite to do?
The situation in DRC for years has been as it is today. A lot of countries are involved in the internal politics of the DRC. Uganda, Rwanda, they've all been involved in supporting one rebel group or the other. The M23, the March 23 rebel group, they are enlarging at the moment, and they are increasing in both the number and the activities that are carrying out at the moment. So it is obvious that they are being supported by external forces, and these forces, external forces, are bent on changing the regime in the DRC. So the AU should have focused on bringing all these people who are engaged, who are involved in the conflict in the DRC on a table for dialogue. They should have also brought in the external forces. They know them, that are influencing whichever rebel group that are operating in the DRC on a table, discuss with them, have a dialogue with them, put the priority of the people of the DRC ahead of every other thing so that there will be peace in the DRC, so that there can be development there as well. The common man in the DRC, what they want is peace and also food on their table. That should be the priority of the leaders in that region.
So if the AU is unable to table this or place this firmly on the agenda, we then have got to start talking about the relevance of this continental body. And I think this is a conversation that's been had many times. I want to actually break it down to even regional bodies. SADC, we have had problems in Eswatini for a very long time. The issues in Zimbabwe of elections being disputed time and again. You go to ECOWAS, and that's where we have seen coups taking part in that part of the region. All of these regional bodies, including the all-encompassing continental body, the AU, what is their relevance if they can't solve these issues?
Okay, the member states of ECOWAS, the member states of SADC, these are the same people that sit as member states of AU. So if they are not able to manage their affairs at the regional level, how do you think they will manage their affairs at the continental level? So at this moment, the discussion on the relevance of AU as well as SADC and ECOWAS is ongoing, because like in the ECOWAS sub-region, there is a competitor now for the ECOWAS, the Alliance of Sahel States. So they need to understand that there is competition within the region now. So as you know, productivity increases when there is competition. So the Alliance of Sahel States, though they are being, the member states are led by dictators, they are trying to, chart a path that most Africans, especially the young ones, are aligned with. So AU as a continental organization, they are not living up to the standards they should. And if they are not, that means the regional bodies like SADC and ECOWAS, they won't also live up to the expectations of the masses in the continent.
So let me then slightly broaden this as a final question to you, because this has been developing and I doubt that it has received closer attention from the continental body. The Russians seem to have a foothold, particularly in the countries that have seen coups in the last couple of months and years. And they seem to have quite a presence, whether you talk Burkina Faso or Niger, including Mali. If there is no appetite by the AU to deal decisively with this instability in parts of the continent, do you think that these leaders have the stomach to go and ask Vladimir Putin what are his interests in these countries that have seen coups, and is it to restore democracy? Because if not, then surely he is working against a continent that is trying to restore peace and stability.
As you know, there are multiple external forces trying to get hold of, have influence on several countries in Africa. France, they've been there for decades. USA, even Turkey, and now China and Russia. So you saying that the AU should go to Russia and ask Russia what are they doing without the three countries of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger? It means you do not recognize these countries as sovereign states. Niger is a sovereign state, and as a sovereign state, they have the right to decide who they have to have bilateral agreement with and who they do not want to relate with. Likewise, Mali, Burkina Faso, they all have, these are sovereign nations. Even though they are being ruled by dictators, the previous rulers, there are a lot of reports that are saying that most of the previous rulers were puppets of certain external forces. So now, if these new dictators that are in Niger, because the previous ones, they are also civilian dictators, if the new dictators that are in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are trying to create or chart a path where they will be seen not as aid recipients, but as partners on, with the external forces, then why not we give them a chance? See if they can, have the best interest of their people at heart, because what the normal person, on the street in Niger want is to have electricity, to have food on their table, to have a good living standard. These countries are rich in natural resources, but previous leaders, they've plundered these natural resources, turning their people into, to be on the charts of the poorest nations in the world. So there should be a new, kind of approach to how we see these dictators or new dictators that are coming in. Those ones were civilian dictators as well. So like ECOWAS at this moment doesn't have a standard or a protocol where they can, criticize civilian coups, or where they can criticize a situation whereby a president wants to remain in power for life. But they have mechanisms to sanction when there is a change in power by the military men. So right now, there should be a new approach. I think ECOWAS, the old guards in ECOWAS should understand that the change is the only thing that is constant. That's what they need to know. The normal person on the street want food on the table. They want good living standard. They want democratic dividend. Even if it is not democratic dividend, they really want a change whereby the natural resources of these countries should be put in place and used to develop these countries. Their healthcare, their education, the infrastructures need to be developed.
All right. Thank you very much for your analysis. Ezenwa Olumba is a doctoral researcher at the University of London's Conflict, Violence and Terrorism Research Centre of the Royal Holloway.